Good morning, everyone. It has just become news at this point that a company called Rocket Ledger Express that provides merchant services, including handheld payment terminals and related financial services for both credit and debit card payments, is experiencing an outage. This outage began, as I mentioned before, at approximately 10 a.m. this morning, and it is starting to gain traction, and it's making the news at this point of time. Let's take a quick moment to view the news report that has come in regarding this outage.
Retail outlets facing widespread transaction disruption following incident with third-party vendor. Good morning, folks. This is Roshan Khan reporting live from downtown, where retailers all across Canada are facing serious disruptions following incident with ODTN's financial payment software. This glitch has left many stores unable to process any credit or debit transactions, causing serious revenue loss at a critical time just before the holiday shopping season. Institutions are worried about revenue loss as well as regulatory complications as this issue persists. This underscores just how crucial third-party vendors have become to our society today. This is Roshan Khan from ODTN News. Please stay with us as more information becomes available.
By a core group here from Rocket Ledger Express. I have the IT security team lead, I have the third-party vendor manager, I have the CISO, the public relations officer, an IT security team lead, a chief privacy officer, and I'm also joined by two industry experts from BreachRx and SailPoint. This is very, very early stages in this situation, and we're unsure of what exactly is unfolding. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you would like to speak a little bit about the scenario at hand and perhaps even share your screen with the initial details that we have at this point.
So what we do know right now is that we have a piece of what's called batch transaction software that also has an API for real-time communications. This is a piece of software that we run in our company that we don't make. We've purchased this from an external company, and its main job is to send encrypted files back and forth between merchants and us, and financial institutions and us. And it looks like, and I don't have all the details yet, that recently our team, our applications team, was performing an update to the application, and something must have gone wrong, but we don't have more details than that yet.
When you say we don't have much details, is this primarily because it's a situation that has just come to your attention, or are you just beginning the investigation at this point?
The investigation is currently happening.
Okay.
We started it yesterday because we noticed there were some alerts that came up that didn't seem alarming at the time.
Okay.
And it looks like something happened in the update process that may have damaged the function of the application or caused something else to go wrong, but we don't know more than that yet, and I don't want to jump to any conclusions. We don't think that this is a cyber attack at this moment, but it could be, so we're not ruling that out.
Okay. Vivek, since you're with public relations, I'd like to bring you to the table here. Vivek, at this point, while our name hasn't been brought out yet as Rocket Ledger, we are aware that this is impacting a vendor that we use, ODTN Financials. Do we need to put out some sort of a statement at this point?
At this point,
need to unmute.
at this point, it's too soon for a press release. I think right now, understanding the scope of what has happened and reaching out to all of our information partners will be key, because others may be seeing something similar. We don't know. And the other important part of communications is the listening part. And it's important that we activate our teams to be on high alert to social media, dark web monitoring, and see if we can have any chatter that's going on related to this. So in terms of what we can do and reach out, there would already be legal agreements and frameworks in place where we could reach out within the FS Financial Services, ISAC, they have a CERT response team. We could put out a query. Is anyone seeing something going on? We could reach out to the CCCS and let them know, we don't think it's a cyber attack, we're troubleshooting it, but just give them a heads up that we're on this, and if they have any information or support, that they could be on standby. We'd also reach out to CCTX, Canadian Cyber Threat Exchange, and let them know they might be getting reports from merchants. And all of this would require a separate task force just on the comms, just to understand the scope at this stage. I think the other part that's going to be really important is to start to draft an internal communication. Okay. We don't want employees speculating or posting on the web as per the training that they would have received. And so it'd be important to have, sign off from legal and have awareness so that the messaging is being drafted and prepared. Probably the press is knocking on the doors because there's already been news coverage on the TV, so we'd have to make sure the relationships that we have with the press tell them that we are getting ready and even try to estimate a time. I think the other piece that will be important for a company like ours providing this type of service is we would probably have a crisis playbook on standby, and we would want to activate it into alert mode. And that would mean that the crisis coordinators would run through the attendees of the crisis team and just confirm who's here, who's on vacation, are they reachable, and in the event that we need to pull the trigger, that they would know who to pull in. But I think at this stage, in summary, we're still understanding the scope, and we're really trying to understand who else is affected and make sure our employees don't jump the gun.
Yeah, Vivek, I can come back to you very quickly on this, and pardon me cutting you off because of the urgency of this situation. Vivek, the problem that we also have is that you're a one-person shop right now from a public relations perspective. We do not have access this weekend to both our communication staff as they are away on vacation. Does this present any challenges? Very quickly, Vivek, because I do need to bring in some other members as this situation escalates.
Yes, in any playbook, you're going to need to understand when the primary participants are not available, who's going to be the backup, were they trained, were they involved in the tabletops, and who can you pull in as a secondary aid on that task.
Okay. Well, I'll start to see what we have access to. I've got the wider team over here. I'll just queue up folks and let them know that very shortly I'll be sharing some materials that I've received and some emails as well. But Octavia, I have a quick question for you. At this point, we haven't yet issued any messaging. However, Public Relations is recommending that we speak to our third-party vendor. What is the right process we need to follow here, and what are the steps we need to take?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that we need to actually reach out to our vendor that's actually impacted by this software. So we'll reach out to them, we'll go into our database, pull that information, reach out to them to try to make sure that they are aware that there's something going on and see if they know any fixes or anything like that. I think the second thing, though, is that if we think that we are impacted and we see we're impacted, we also need to actually look at our entire third-party list that helps us do our business, and we need to actually go and send notifications out to them and just ask them if they're also impacted, right? We would not have enough information to figure out what the impact is. We don't know anymore. We just need a simple yes or no at this point, and we need it quickly.
Yes and no, and we need it quickly. Well, I'm going to see what I can do, and I also have Mark still trying to see if we can find out anything more about this incident. I have, however, and this will come up on the screen very shortly, I have, however, started to see that we are getting complaints and we are getting some concerns that are coming our way from some of our customers. While it pops up on the screen, I will read this out to all of you in case it's not entirely visible. Daisy, who is one of our sales agents, has received an email from Andrew from Loom Clothing. And it says, Daisy, this is getting annoying. It is now day 3 without any automated generated reports from our sales. I have 10 active stores right now that simply cannot reconcile on time and report back on resources and requirements. It is the holiday season, and I cannot keep doing this manually or per request. Why are we not getting any reports? Call me now. And I guess he's kind. He said happy holidays. Well, with that said, I really need to bring in Vivian. From an IT security standpoint, I'm really growing concerned with this situation as it unfolds. Vivian and Kim, if you want to chime in, you head up our security. What are some next steps? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I can start. So we did start to see sporadic reports of some of our merchants, Andrew being one of them, not getting the transaction reports. And so we started investigating this. The portal is up and running. Our transaction and reporting backend is up and running. We are dispatching a team to some of the affected clients to diagnose the handheld terminals in the stores to see if it's a fault there. And I don't have any answers on that right now. Kim's been looking at our SOC and the cybersecurity alerts, and she can provide an update on that.
Yes, thanks, Vivian. So Vivian and I have put together an IT war room with our teams, both the operational and the security. As Mark said, we don't exactly know the cause, but we did have some alerts that we're looking into. They were not seen as something of concern at the time, but we're going to reassess those alerts and confirm that they are not a cyber breach. So we're looking into collecting the different logs, looking at the different use cases and SIM alerts that have been seen, and just ensuring that there's nothing there. Vivian is also with her team making sure that there are no technical components, so there's no servers offline or no communication issues. But at this time, we're not entirely sure exactly what's happening because we are seeing transactions that are processing, but there seems to be a disconnect between the number of transactions we'd expect and what is processing and being reported to the merchants.
Shakil, you are our CISO. You've been brought up to speed with everything that is going on. I do understand, and I have brought in two experts, one from SailPoint and one from BreachRx to assist us. But Shakil, I am concerned at this point, given how important the holiday season is to all of our clients, do we need to be rolling up communications to our board right now, or do we need to be taking any other steps besides what has been shared with us so far?
So a couple of things that we need to look at. First is usually the organizations have some kind of playbook as well when it comes to communication, and when do they need to escalate it to the next level. So I would be referring to that part or that playbook itself so that we know what exactly the protocols are for the organization to escalate. Having said that, the other part that we need to look at is like the team has already informed and confirmed that there doesn't seem to be a glitch in the application itself. Rather, the transactions are not getting recorded into the other system. So one thing that we definitely we need to look at is whether there was any change that was introduced in the middleware part of where the two systems are basically communicating with each other or not. Right. So those are some of the things that we need to look at. Coming back to the other part, where you mentioned about the reporting it to the board. Since it is now escalating, then we probably need to inform the board about it, but with the caution that it hasn't been made public to from the organization's perspective as yet. Like there hasn't been any public announcement made by the company itself.
Shakil, I appreciate what you've said, and the team is going to take the necessary steps at this point of time. I have another little piece of information that I'm going to pop up onto the screen very shortly, and this is getting me a little bit concerned, and I'll probably ask my colleague from SailPoint here to assist me. I'll read it out. It's a Teams message where IT has basically said, "Dear team, an update was deployed on November 29th. Since then, we received reports of transaction delays, connection errors, and even multiple 504 gateway timeouts and 502 bad gateway errors. We're investigating and working to resolve issues." The problem I have here is Daisy has chimed in and said, "Wait, is our systems down?" I think Hansi has chimed in and said, "I think it is down." And IT has responded back saying, "Like we said, we are investigating." And Daisy has said, "I think we are down. So many complaints. Why did we update? Nothing was broken. The update broke things." Casey from SailPoint. At this point, I want to advise you also that about 2 months ago, we did lay off about 15% of our staff. There was quite a lot of dissatisfaction. It was very unexpected, and it was more of a precautionary measure than anything else. From an identity standpoint and users on our platform and how updates have been done, is there anything we need to be paying very specific attention to right now?
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, quite a few pieces of information that we'd be able to extract from our identity platform, right? At the moment, we don't know that there's a breach, an attack, right? This could just be a patch that has, caused things to go sideways. But from an identity perspective, as you mentioned, knowing that there were people who were let go recently and we had a large whack of layoffs, we can do things like validate that their accounts have actually been closed, specifically people who may have had privileged access to these sorts of servers, right? Just to be sure that there isn't any form of lingering access and that we can validate and ensure that this isn't a vector or an area that someone could have approached us, right? Yep. I think another thing to keep in mind is that depending on the level of maturity that we have here at Rocket Ledger, the first question I have has to do with, have we onboarded our machine accounts to the My Identity platform? Do we have the concept of inventorying and understanding what a typical set of access privileges is required for these particular service accounts that we use to interact with this platform? And we would potentially even be able to use things like AI modeling or threat analysis to understand, has anything changed, right? As a result of this patch, are we seeing what we deem to be abnormal sets of access that are being given to these accounts? That could be additional excessive privileges that they don't need. It could also be less privileges, right? If our platform has an idea of what proper looks like by us having onboarded these accounts, we would be able to detect changes in those accounts and potentially give a lifeline to people, right? As I said, we don't know that there's a breach happening right now, but if this is extremely important and critical, then there definitely are reports, pieces of information, and even threat and risk models that we could look at from an identity platform that might help us.
All right, thank you for that. We have recently been talking about improving our IAM posture and really running an IAM program, but we're not at that level of maturity yet. And this does raise some concerns for me, especially given that the context around the recent fires that we've had and the downsizing. It is drawing quite a lot of concern, but I thank you for bringing this to our attention. As the security team and the IT team starts to put together some information, very shortly I will turn to Andy as well from BreachRx to give us a little bit of a legal perspective as well, and then also walk us through some tooling that we could use. I do want to make clear to everyone that, and I'll go to the next prompt or the next little piece of evidence that I've received. And Daisy's really at the forefront. She's one of our salespeople, and she's really getting a lot of messages at this point. This one is a text message exchange, and I'll read it out for all of you. It comes from Michael Jackson, and it says, "Daisy, you guys are killing me. I don't have reports today either. BD team losing their shit." It's not me, it's Michael. "What's up there?" And then he sends a message again and says, "Daisy, you guys are killing me. I don't have reports today either. BD team losing their shit. What's up there? And why doesn't Ali, that IT support dude," that's rude, "ever respond to email? I always do. Give me anything I can to speak to him. MSN, ICQ, I'll do it." To which Daisy has said, "Be right back in a meeting." Kat, I really want to understand that at this point, Daisy's on the front lines, and we have many other sales agents that are getting these calls. At different locations, we have our salespeople also speaking to on-site staff. From a compliance perspective and a privacy perspective, we'll stick to privacy for now. If there's a risk that customer data could be in jeopardy here, what are some steps we need to be taking?
So from a legal perspective, we are going to draw the distinction right now that this is a security event or a security incident. This is not a privacy incident. We have not seen that yet. The minute you fire off the word breach, which is unauthorized access or manipulation of data, then you fire off a whole bunch of timelines too, and then you're obligated to report to commissioners and regulators and individuals. So we do not want to use the word breach until we are certain we have a privacy breach. And in fact, like you said, this isn't even a privacy incident. So this is where, as legal and privacy, we are going to work, especially as legal, with Vivek from Public Relations, and make sure that we have that communication out, as Ali had mentioned, to the staff to say, hey, here's the internal messaging that we're using. We are going to use the word suspected incident. We are not going to use the word incident. We are not going to use the word breach. So everything right now is suspected. We are not like innocent until proven otherwise. That's where we are. So we are just, from a legal perspective, again, we are not defining any of this as either a breach or any kind of privacy incident.
Vivek, please.
Ali, yeah. No, with the escalating customer calls, completely aligned with Kat and on her positioning and wording. It's important at this point that we set up a hotline. Now, for merchants that are our critical customer base, they should all have a playbook which allows the terminal to go in offline mode. Now, for some reason, I'm sure some of the merchants have attempted this and it's not working. So what's vital at this stage is establish a hotline. A communication goes out to our merchants to make sure they can reach us if they have questions, make sure they're activating their offline mode, and we need to establish a cadence now. So I know Vivian and Kim are running our IT bridge. We've got a security bridge going. We've got monitoring going. And now we need to be providing regular updates to the board. They're going to be very interested in updates from us because it's already been in the media. So we need to set up that timing. Probably, 15 minutes before the hour, each of these groups are rolling up their updates so we can send hourly updates to the board. Now, the feedback from customers will be vital in helping us understand, is it just us or is it something broader? When there's so many technologies involved, sometimes you want to look at, is there a common element like the network or a common software piece, but we don't know at this stage, but we need to explore them all, lift every rock.
Vivek, I'm going to let you do your thing. Very shortly, Mark will also give us an update on what we know technically as well in terms of what information we've gathered. I want to turn to Andy. Andy is one of our trusted advisors from BreachRx. Andy, very shortly, perhaps in about 5 or 6 minutes, I may also ask you to show us what tooling you have. But at this point, I have two very important questions for you. The first is, from a legal perspective, we have never been in this situation before and have never faced any fallout as a result of outages caused by an attack. A, are there any legal consequences we need to be making ourselves aware of? Number two is, we do have customers south of the border as well. At this point, we haven't received any information on them going out, but it's still a concern for me. What do I need to be tracking at this point and making my team aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, and Kat spoke to a number of them. There's 200 plus global regulations. There's the regulations in Canada itself, and then you mentioned south of the border. The U.S. has a different data breach law in every state. Every sector has its own law, and so a big piece of this is you need to start tracking your work. So I think we've seen how quickly this is dispersing across different parts of the organization. The leadership cares about this. You need to have a place where you're pulling everybody together and you're making sure everybody's on the same page. And I know we've talked about the incident response plan a few different times. From our experience, a lot of times people don't actually look at that plan when they're facing an incident. It starts to go into crisis mode. I'm just going to go start solving the thing I know in front of me. And when you have this wide of an organization, you don't have your handle on what everybody's doing all the time. And so keeping those regular cadence of updates we were just talking about to the board, it becomes really critical that you really know what everybody's doing. And so that's a big piece of what our product does, is it brings all of the business together, because these type of escalated incidents, they're not just a security problem, it's a business problem.
Now, I appreciate that, and I will ask you very shortly, once I've gone to our friends at SailPoint and then to Mark, to just show us a little bit for about a couple of minutes to show us how we could utilize your platform. But Shaquille and security team, including our third-party vendor managers, when we ran our security awareness program and we put together our incident response plan, we did not necessarily engage a lot of our frontline staff. We engaged managers only in responding to an incident. But at this point, Shaquille, it's our frontline staff who are dealing with a lot of complaints. how are we supposed to now control the narrative, and what are you going to recommend so that we don't see further degradation to our image?
So I think Vivek initially mentioned about it, that there needs to be a internal communication from the organization perspective as well, so that each and every employee within the organization knows what we are dealing with and what kind of messaging we need to convey to the external entities and to our customers as well. That is very important, so that there is no confusion within the organization. So I would be banking on that part, because communication is a specialized field within the organization or in any organization. I would be deferring that part to my, obviously, the communication experts, so that similar message is going out to each and every employee and to the external entities as well.
All right, fair enough. I'm just looking at all the information that I'm getting. Mark, at this point, you've done a little bit of investigation. Is there anything you'd like to show us, or is there just some updates you want to provide? Because I really want to get the security team to chime in, because we have no idea how to deal with this.
Yeah, we know quite a bit more now. So actually, if we could bring my screen up, I'll start speaking to what I'm going to walk us through. So what we know is that we had recently a large group of people leave, and so what was happening was ODTN Financials, what they make is a series of software, portals and transactions and batch drops and things like that. There's a specific server that I'm logged into right now, and that's just the server's name. It's not the product's name. It's just called File Drop. That's what we called it. It's running a variant of Linux, and what happened recently was there was a series of major updates that happened. So it took us a little while to track down a staff member that was even familiar with this product, because ODTN Financials has mostly wanted to be sort of the administrator of it, and there was conflict over the fact that we were having trouble getting them to upgrade to the latest version of the OS and the latest version of the packages, specifically the SSH libraries. This is an encryption library that's used, and so years of updates were applied as part of this, because we were getting to the point where if we didn't update, we wouldn't be able to anymore, because the supply stream for the packages was going to become obsolete and taken off. And so this is what the update was, we believe, that caused the issue, that we believe this is the system, and our team is starting to think that our internal security products might have actually started to block some of the communication paths to the system after these updates were done, and that's what we know right now.
Security team, Kim, Vivian, Shaquille, anyone, what are your first comments on this?
So I've been asking Octavia to reach out to the vendor and find out if they can give us any answer on whether or not it's even possible to roll back some of these updates. Obviously, the number and scope of them, the degree of currency in OS updates and encryption updates that we were doing in this operation, like it's huge. So we are preparing for the possibility that may not be possible for us to wind that back, but Octavia is going to talk to the vendor and see what mitigations they have. Kim and the security team are going to be looking at those access controls and whether or not there's something in the access control model that somehow got broken by applying these updates. It is definitely looking at this point like the issues are around the ODTN Financials software, but given some of the disconnects with the terminals in the store and payments not going through at all, we can't eliminate the possibility that that's a separate parallel problem. So we're still trying to get staff out to the stores to diagnose them. We're seeing that some of the handhelds are going into offline mode, but not in all of the stores, so that's worrisome as well, the inconsistency there. So right now we can't really identify the scope of the problem. We also really need the communications plan to kick into effect, because we cannot have customers reaching out directly to my team and trying to talk to them directly while we're still trying to diagnose this problem. So we have to get those official channels out there, and our frontline staff needs the support to talk our customers through using those channels instead of reaching out directly to the IT team.
Yeah, along the same lines, we're seeing a lot of internal communications. You're seeing all the text messages and chat messages. They're coming into people at IT, so we need that communication to come out to let the internal teams know what's happening and what the messaging is. We're also looking at the different updates that were done to see if there was any potential known vulnerabilities in those updates that needed to be patched, and subsequently those patches haven't happened. And we're also looking to, as Mark said, look at the dark web, and we're going to increase the scope of that search to include things around the third party to see if we can see other chatter outside of just Rocket Ledger.
See, so this is a question that has come in from the board, and they can spell security, but that's really about it at this situation. Shaquille, I'm very concerned, or the board's very concerned right now that we might be understaffed and under-resourced.
Okay.
Perfect time to get concerned, I get it.
Yes, that's right. So they should have listened to me previously.
That's true.
Before the incident happened. Okay, so on the serious note, obviously there would be concerns raised by the board at this time of during the incidents. But my reply for that would be like, yes, we may be looking like a short on staff side, but we are a kind of a lean machine. That's how I will put it. We have the necessary resources available, and if needed, we will be engaging the third party for the deep dive on the incident part as well, for the forensics part and those kind of details. We already have the contracts in place, which we can activate anytime. Plus, I would be looking at the cyber insurance as well, because quite often what happens is when you go for the cyber insurance from these companies, they offer these kind of services as well. So I would be looking at that part. So my message to the board would be, we are in a comfortable position from the resourcing perspective, and we have the resourcing available at our disposal whenever we require it.
Noted. Kat, there's a question from the board as well, and this seems to be thanks to the privacy training that you ran for all of us during our annual get-together. Kat, do we need to prepare communications for the privacy commissioner at this point, or do we need to be concerned with anything related to privacy based on what we now know about the incident?
Well, because we're proactive, we already have the scripts prepared. All we would need to do is put in the relevant data for this incident, but again, it is not a privacy incident.
Yep.
What you can tell the board, though, is that we are evaluating contracts and service level agreements to determine what we have given to the financial institutions to let them know how long we will be up, and at what point then we will have to work with communications again to make sure that the customers that we serve, which again are the financial institutions predominantly, are then communicated with according to whatever our service level agreement indicates.
Yeah, there's another question from the board that's targeted at you, and then some stuff for Casey as well. Before Andy, I'm going to ask you to just show us how we can bring the team together using your platform. Kat, a lot of our support staff right now, especially our sales agents, are beginning to communicate via text and WhatsApp and whatever else have you. And this could escalate into them even using MSN and ICQ, because that's what Michael wants to get to. Any pieces of information or guidance we need to be giving our staff right now?
So again, legally, we do not know anything about this incident. So it is a suspected, keep using that word, it's a suspected incident because we don't have the information, and then therefore we can't actually communicate anything. But what we can do, because people want to know that they can do something, is that we are working on it and we will communicate back with them. As Vivek said, there's a hotline. Another thing we can do is set up a page on our website that says, here's where you can come back for updates, and we can make sure we frequently update that page, and then that hopefully should take people off of these side threads and communication methods and back to somewhere where they can feel like they're in control because they're getting the updates frequently.
Thank you, Kat. As we prepare Andy to shortly show us how he can help us bring the team together, Casey, there's a question from the board again towards you as well, and it's a concern that I have, and that is based on what Mark has shown us. We find it hard to believe as a board that a company would just give us a corrupted software to update with. If this was a corrupted software that we have patched with, or if there's something wrong in the patch that we've downloaded, shouldn't our team members have noticed that? And is there a possibility that one of our team members is acting nefariously?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible and something or a scenario that's worthwhile investigating, I would say, right? Again, if we're a mature organization and we're leveraging our identity platform to its fullest, this information should be relatively close to our fingertips to be able to give an answer to the board. So I know we talked about a decent amount of employees that were let go a little while ago. We should be able to turn around, look into the system and understand, was all of their access removed? I would even take that and scope it a bit tighter to be able to ask things like, did they have access to this particular server? Again, this can be a very complex problem. It's not just a simple matter of saying, are they a member of the server admins group, right? There's going to be PAM vaults, there's going to be shared accounts and things like that. But again, if your platform is built properly and you've built integrations to all of the correct systems, you'd be able to pull that information back and report to the board with 100% certainty, yes, all of their access was removed, here is the date that it occurred, this is the person from help desk that removed it, or we'd be able to find anomalies, right? And identify, okay, here's a thread that we can pull on and investigate a little bit further to understand whether or not this particular account that had access to this server that has been left open, right, we would be able to investigate a bit more and even have particular accounts that we would want to start digging into and looking at a little bit more, right?
Casey, our CEO was out golfing in Florida, and I've got them on the line now. They're supposed to be retiring in 6 months, so they clearly don't want this situation. I have received a text from them. Their line's a little bit choppy, and they've identified 2 staff members that they think are up to no good. Should we just cut off their access at this point? I mean, I want to do anything. I don't want this situation to escalate.
So again, I think this is something that's much more around a company policy, decision, right? The short answer is if we want to be safe, yeah, I mean, I'm not the CISO, I'm not in charge of all of this, but if we want to be safe, I think the first thing to be would be to, yes, let's disable the access so that we can investigate it a bit further, right? I think what people have a tendency though is that, there's a balance between I don't want to needlessly cause someone undue stress or cause problems with their work, but I believe this is a crisis scenario that we're dealing with at this point in time. So as long as the balancing act of, what are the potential downsides of disabling this access, if we've identified 2 particular individuals, also very specifically, again, I don't know if we're talking about these people being included in those, 15% that were let go, or if we're talking about current employees of the organization. But again, we should be able to cross-reference that, and 100%, like if we're talking about someone who's left the company, we've identified access that potentially was left open, then it sounds to me, without even knowing what the downsides of that are, that yes, we should probably look into disabling their access, right? The last thing I'll mention is we should be able to know what all of their access looks like, including to their shared accounts. And this should be relatively simple to do, right? Because the platform would have the ability to automatically reach out and perform all of those disables kind of at one time, right? Or in cases where there's manual work required, we'd know which individuals or what tickets to write to make that happen.
Yeah, this is very relevant. I can tell you that in our SOC 2 audit, our deboarding process was flagged as extremely weak. We did have a conversation with your colleague James, but we didn't move fast enough to implement some of the tools we could have. So we'll probably look at what we can use in the interim. Public relations, do you have an update for us or something to add?
No, just something to add, Ollie. Just talking with my peers, we need to be cautious. Our last, audit report showed that some of the admins had put scripts in production that were owned by them. So disabling accounts right away may put our production at higher risk. I think also, understanding what testing was done on this update and who did it is probably an important task. But at this stage, disabling remote access would also be a PR discussion because we're in a hybrid work state. We have workers that are working remotely as well as on location. So disabling remote access, yes, I would support that. But disabling the accounts, I would be concerned on production impacts at this stage.
Thank you. Very quickly, CISO, as per the CEO, the new rule of the universe is guilty until proven innocent. and fingers are beginning to point at people. If fingers start getting pointed at the security team itself, how do you think we need to deal with this?
In most of the cases, what happens is security is not the owner of the systems.
Yep.
Let's say on the IT side especially, we don't own the system. So applications, as far as this incident is concerned, will not be owned by the security itself. Yes, security might be owning the identity solution in place, but that wouldn't be the root cause of this incident. At least I would assume at this time of the incident itself, since we have a little bit of information available, not too much details are available. So that would be my stance. Yes, what we should be doing is, like, if we have identified a couple of individuals, then we should be disabling their accounts temporarily, at least for the time being, until we come to the exact conclusion based on our investigations.
All right, the last text I got from the CEO was, whatever, we need to sort this out. Didn't we do something called DevSecOps? Well, I'll try to figure out all of that very shortly. I'm just going to let everybody know now that we have about 15 minutes to bring this to a little bit of a soft landing. I'm going to turn over the screen now to our colleague from BreachRx, Andy. And as this pops up on the big screen and on our monitors over here, I will let everyone in the audience know that the purpose of showing you this tool for the next 5 minutes is to sort of see how we can bring the teams together. And I also believe that all attendees will get free access to a certain set of modules within this that you can use and test for yourself. Andy, I'll give you the floor for about 5 minutes to walk us through how we can bring everybody together from a legal and compliance perspective.
Thanks. Yeah, as you're kind of seeing here, as this is playing out, we have the benefit of everybody being in the same room and talking together, but the reality of operating in a hybrid situation is everybody's in different areas, people are in different time zones, some people are in work, some people are not. And so there's a real challenge is how do you keep everybody together? How do you make sure everybody's on the same page? How do you track all the work that's happening? Because the reality is once you get to the end of the process, when you do have some kind of notification or you do have some kind of investigation that happens after the fact, you have to be able to show your work. You have to be able to play the tape back. As you know, one of our CISO customers has said to us before, incident response records are now audited like financial records. And that's the level of detail you need to have. It's not just what did you put down in a Google Doc or a spreadsheet. You're seeing how this is quickly spread across facts that are happening all across the enterprise. And so that's a big purpose here is how do we pull everybody together? So just briefly, this is an overview screen that you can see, okay, where are we in the process? Obviously, we're still gathering a lot of facts, so we're really in the investigation phase. We have some basic background. We know it's a certain type of incident at this stage, but we don't know whether it's a full-blown breach or not. I can go over to the Actions tab. This is where all the collaboration is happening, so you can see things that were automatically assigned to people on the team to start working on. So you think about that incident response plan that's in paper for somebody to pull out and say, okay, who's responsible for what, who needs to do what, versus a digitized approach where something happens, new facts happen, and you have tasks that just automatically generate in the platform to say, okay, you should be doing this, you should be working on that. Another quick thing that came up is, how do you control these communications? So people are saying the same thing. How do you have an out-of-band place to do this that is separate from that factual record you're creating? So we're building this factual record. I'll show you in a second what the timeline looks like on that. But you also have a place where you can have privileged communications off the record. And so this is an example of where I'm telling my employee, Dan, hey, we can't use the breach word yet. We don't know that. We don't have enough details, similar to what Kat was saying earlier. And then say more facts come in, we learn more things about this incident. I may want to add that, okay, we're starting to talk about this as an incident type might also involve insider threat. So I might want to add that as an incident type here as an example. And then the timeline I mentioned. So you need to be able to have a record to show, hey, we took all the right actions at the right time. This is automatically being generated in the background as more things come into this incident, as people do activities. All that's being recorded, not the privileged communications, but the factual pieces. And then we've talked a lot about these regulatory things that are coming in. So that's the module that we're offering to give the attendees access to. understanding what are those regulatory obligations and being able to quickly assess, okay, based on the details, the data that's impacted here, the customers that are involved, what are the regulations that might be applicable, and so you can go in.
And are these Canadian and US?
Yes, these are worldwide actually, and that's the access, the 6 months access is for the worldwide regulations that we cover, but as an example, you can see, I can quickly look, okay, what's in scope for Canada. I could put in different detail types about the incident, and then I could quickly jump into, PIPED as an example here. How do they define PII? What are the exceptions? What are the potential fines we might face? 'Cause that's usually a lot of the things that the board wants to know when you're looking at potential activities. What does the actual notification look like? What's the detail level we're going to need to provide to the regulator? What's the detail we're going to need to provide to consumers? All of this is really easily referenced. And so I'll kind of stop there. There's a lot more to the platform, but those are kind of some of the basic ways that we can really help pull the team together. I'll just say, overall, our approach here is, I'm a litigator, 20 years of data breach litigation experience. We looked at all the long tail consequences and said, okay, how can we take those off the table for the business? And that's why the product's designed. What are the ways that we can make sure you respond consistently to the incidents so that you don't get into that regulatory trouble, you don't have the personal liability issues that we've seen some CISOs run into.
Thank you for that. Comforting to know with your litigation knowledge as well. We did let go of our last legal firm and have been flying a little bit dark. Times have been tough, and we've made a few very, very difficult decisions and haven't been able to move fast enough, but it's good to know that we have some sort of insight potentially using this platform. We have approximately 9 more minutes, and I did receive one question for somebody who managed to socially engineer this, someone who texted me a question from the crowd, and I'm actually going to use that question and really open it up to the table at this point. Look, it's been an hour and a half now. There are no digital transactions taking place. Sales are dropping. At one side, reports are not coming through, but at one side, revenues are dropping for all of our clients. Can we guide them or assist them right now in any way with doing cash-based transactions? Is there anything we can do to help stop the bleed? Anybody in this war room right now who has any ideas? Vivek?
Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, most of the payment terminals have an offline mode. So if this is still failing, I would be deeply concerned, because that means the infrastructure has been altered on several levels, not just the merchants' register systems, but the actual acquiring systems. And that would have me very concerned. But I would continue to staff up the hotline, continue to monitor social media, Reddit, continue to liaise with all of the Intel partners like the CCCS, the FSI SAC CERT team, and the Canadian Center for Cyber Threat Exchange, and I would continue to see, is this growing? Is this more than just us? Is it just us? And it's not going to be of much comfort to customers that aren't able to buy what they need to buy. So, some guidance to merchants is going to have to be, is their playbook going to be they close the store or not? Because having frustrated customers, standing there at the till is probably not, an ideal situation that can escalate.
Yes.
So I have two things. First of all, whether or not there's anything we can do to help our client merchants in moving to cash-based transactions, it's all a question of whether or not we already had that in our playbook. It's too late for us to scramble and try and figure out how to do that now while we're in the middle of this massive outage. I'm going to call this an outage because right now that's all that we can confirm that it is. But this is a serious outage. Again, we have to find out how big the scope of the problem is. But then looking ahead, if, as we suspect, the root cause is this piece of third-party software, there's not a lot we can do about it. If we can't roll it back, if we don't get a patch from the vendor in time, then we have to start thinking about recovery. And because this update went in before the end of November, there's a possibility that month-end reporting for November and December is going to be impacted, and the reconciliation effort that we're going to have to do for our clients across 2 months of reporting, that's going to be a very expensive and a very laborious process. So these are some of the things that we have to start thinking about recovery once we understand the scope of this and what we can actually do on our side. Also, the insider threat angle, again, it's a question of how well prepared we are in our playbook to handle that. It's all fine and well for somebody to say, hey, I think these two people are sus, but do we actually have a playbook on how we investigate that? Do we actually have any of the tools to go back and look at employee access or monitor employee activity or understand, like, where is this even coming from? It's a text message from the CEO whose audio connection on the phone call was choppy. Is this really him? Is this deep faked? Does this become a security incident where we're now being attacked by bad actors who are trying to make us chase our own tails and melt down even worse than we are? And this is where we have to start thinking of the other security angles as well. So
Octavia, 2 minutes, yeah.
No, I would say the same thing. And also, I think we need to actually not think about this as an insider threat right now. We really need to look at whether or not we are going to recover. Even as we're talking about fixing it, we've already gotten the vendor on the call. They're working with our technology team. Does the vendor have a way that we can stand up a VM and then just install new software? Right? That needs to be an option. And if we can actually install new software and get things up, batch processing probably can still actually function. The API is the one that seems to be down because that's the one that actually goes directly to the terminals. So that means that we still have batch functionality. That means everyone is not completely down, but we need to be able to quickly figure out, do we have an option to actually stand up a new VM? Can we put this on a VM? What is the cost to do that? And is the business actually ready to do it?
Right, the last known good version.
To the last known good version, exactly.
Fair enough. Shaquille, very quick question because we only have 2 minutes. Unbeknownst to me, a manager of operations has sent instructions to all of our clients saying close down your stores. Some are acting on it, and we're seeing angry customers potentially escalating into arguments and fights. Any assistance we can provide here, or should we stay away?
Tricky one. Okay. From cybersecurity perspective or information security perspective, I would say it's not exactly our responsibility, or let's put it like this. It's not exactly our responsibility to deal with the client's customers. But I would be, on the other hand, I would be looking at it from a business perspective. At the end of the day, the merchants are our clients, and their customers are indirectly our customers only. And again, merchants are using our software, provided software, that they are using it. So it is our responsibility to help the merchants in dealing with the customers as well. So one thing that we definitely need to do is, as an organization, is send a message out to public as well, the current state, and be transparent in communicating with the public. Because transparency creates a trust among the merchants and their customers as well. That is an important thing right now.
Right.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Just one of the things that's absent here is direct communication, right? We have our public relations person, but there needs to be no communication that goes out to the public that doesn't go through public relations, right? And then so any communication that goes out from a chief operating officer or anything that's out of bounds, and that is divulging from our playbook. So no communication needs to go out unless it's approved by legal, it's been reviewed a few times. The CEO has said okay because they're the leader of the crisis exercise, and then also CISO signed off, legal signed off, privacy has signed off, and it's gone out.
Yep. Thank you, Olivia. If I can jump in,
Yeah,
Ali.
for sure.
Exactly. We don't want to create more panic in the public space at this stage based on the information. I think, though, to your question earlier, Ali, it would be important to make sure that law enforcement is in the loop. As tensions are rising, we would notify local law enforcement, RCMP, and make sure they're aware of why there may be locations and what's going on so that they can understand. Whatever physical security we have at those locations, we would be sending them some updated advisories on how to handle this escalating situation. And if we had any third-party support for physical security, we would be lighting up those to bring additional people to large locations. It's a very sensitive time now because now the frustration is deeply set in and people are starting to speculate. So making sure that we don't name the vendor is also important because we really don't know much at this stage. So it's important that we take accountability and keep, like I think as Olivia indicated, the systems are down, we're working on it, and when we'll have a next update.
Well, folks, this is round about the time when someone in my situation potentially hides under a table, if I can find one big enough, and start applying for other jobs, because this situation is going to escalate quite intensely as we move forward. I want to thank the team from Rocket Ledger Express for coming together really, really quickly and getting our connections together to respond to this ongoing incident. I want to thank Andy from BreachRx and Casey from SailPoint, our industry partners and experts, for joining us and assisting us. In approximately 30 minutes, we will be joined by a pharmaceutical organization that is now being impacted by this. We will begin at 10:50 a.m. Eastern Standard, and Mark will walk us through what we now know about this ongoing incident. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in person and online in 30 minutes.